All right, it's 7, so I'm going to start the webinar. Good evening, everyone. I'm Marilyn from JL Singapore, and today, together with me is Christine from JL Malaysia, Emma from JL UK, and Ross from here. Special thanks to the Cambridge University Malaysia and Singapore Association for giving us this opportunity to share with our audiences about this great development, Knights Park in Cambridge, and how JLL could assist in a buying journey. We know that buying or selling a property abroad can offer more challenges than you might expect. Not being physically there to check out the site, unfamiliarity with the buying procedures, and tax issues are some of the challenges investors face when buying a property. Understanding government policies and regulations on different property types, market trends, and marketing and transaction processes, our dedicated team provides support services including valuations as well as letting and management of overseas residential properties. Our team in Singapore and Malaysia is here to make the journey forward less stressful. Rest assured that we will find you the perfect home or investment. For today's agenda, Emma will be doing an introduction on Cambridge, while Ross will introduce the best-selling development, Knights Park. If you have any questions, please post it in the Q&A box. Christine will be facilitating the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. We will keep this webinar short, so without further ado, I will pass over to Emma to begin the presentation. Over to you, Emma.
Thank you, Marilyn. Welcome everybody, and great to have you with us today. We're going to run through, as Marilyn mentioned, an overview of Cambridge, which I'll start with now. So we won't be able to cover all the reasons why to invest or live in Cambridge, but hopefully we'll be able to give you a few reasons through these few next slides. So as you can see from the first slide, we've got a map of the UK, which clearly shows where Cambridge is situated in relation to the whole of the United Kingdom, and also then looking more specifically around that middle part. So it's a really central location, and it's one that we're starting to see a lot more people flock to in terms of an area to potentially invest or live in. Now, there's a few reasons for that, which we're going to cover. The one main reason as well is that you can travel and commute into central London. So as this map shows, you can get into London very quickly and easily via train. You've got a direct route that runs really regularly from Cambridge into central London. Within 53 to 54 minutes, you can be in King's Cross, which is the main London terminus or hub, if you like, that can connect you to anywhere in London within sort of 20 minutes or so on the underground. So it's a great interlink into the city. So that's kind of the quickest and easiest way I would say a lot of people will choose to travel. Cambridge being where it is a great location, as we mentioned, but it's also an area that offers a lot of green space, of open park. It's a lovely place, setting, if you like, to reside in. Clearly, what we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months, given the challenging year we've all faced, is that people are now choosing areas to live and invest for different reasons perhaps we didn't notice before. You don't necessarily have to be living outside or next to where you work. People are now obviously working more from home, as we've seen that behaviour change, and probably will stay for some time. We may look to work in our offices a few days a week, but I think where we now live has become more important than ever for that reason. So people may want to look at moving out some of these more regional cities, and that's certainly a trend that we've seen here at JLL over the last few months. So being able to travel and get into London and other networks is really important. So not just the rail network, but you've also got distances to airports as well. And when hopefully the skies open, which will be very soon, we all hope, we'll be able to then want to choose somewhere that you can perhaps connect to an airport quite quickly. And you can do that from Cambridge as well. Within 30 minutes, you can be in Stansted Airport. So that's a really good travel time, I think, for people to know if you're looking at more international routes of travel. By road as well, you know, cars now are becoming even more important when people want to choose that mode of transport to get into work. If you'd rather feel perhaps it's a more relaxing way to get into work, or safer or more convenient. So I've done the travel journey myself by car to Knights Park, the development we're talking about today, and I live just outside London, and I've done that within less than an hour door to door. So the motorway network is a really good infrastructure that people choose for that reason. the reasons we covered as well, the Sunday Times has reflected that. They've actually done an article not long ago based all around Cambridgeshire and sort of the 10 top places to live in Cambridgeshire. So I think that really does resonate with how popular it's become as a city. We all know it for a lot of reasons, mainly being the university, but I think the travel and the connectivity is one that's really, really important to note. So we've mentioned just now the university, and obviously a lot of you all know already, Cambridge University is the fourth oldest globally, and alongside Oxford is ranked in our top for people coming out with degrees. So I think as you certainly are lucky or proud enough to have a university degree from Cambridge, it certainly will stand you in good stead. But not just the university connection and sort of the heritage and the culture that lies behind it. And if you're lucky enough to travel and visit Cambridge soon, one hopes, it's a fantastic place, and you'll see that heritage walking down any of the streets around Cambridge, or hunting down the River Cam, which a lot of people do as a tourist hotspot. I think something like 500,000 people travel to Cambridge every year as tourists. So I think that shows you when people are starting to visit the UK, it will be a place that people will want to go and see. So as we mentioned, it's the heritage, the cultural aspect, but also the tech side of industry has been hugely involved in Cambridge lately. And I think this slide really demonstrates how many companies have chosen Cambridge as their headquarters. You know, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft have all chosen it as an area to have as their hub or place to have as their research labs. So this kind of indicates that if all these employments and all these companies rather seek to invest, that it's clearly a place to take note of. Not just the thriving tech hub, but other areas in UK like Reading and Oxford have also joined with Cambridge to be what we call these sort of Silicon Valleys of the UK. With all of these companies brings the employment, and I think this clearly shows where people's earning potential can be in Cambridge, alongside how perhaps it sits with the rest of the UK. So an average income there is pretty healthy compared to the rest of the UK, and I think that is demonstrated obviously by those people that want to study and remain have got that chance to earn a really good wage. So that's something that's important when you're looking perhaps as an investor. All these tenants perhaps looking to rent out properties or buy are coming from a pretty stable income base. Alongside the tech hub, we've also got the Cambridge Science Park, which is a fantastic partnership between the university and also local businesses. And it's something that I think is really important to note and to visit if you are coming to Cambridge at some point in the future. It really does demonstrate the partnership that's been responsible for bringing huge companies, as we've just mentioned, into the city. But they've also made Cambridge become a leading industry for software, for research. And I think we all know pharmaceutical companies and notedly the vaccine program that's been extremely successful in the UK has put AstraZeneca on the map, and that's something that's been getting a lot of obviously a spotlight on Cambridge itself. So that's something that everybody obviously is hugely proud of and glad to see come to the fore. So biotechnology is something that's extremely important to Cambridge. So all these, as I mentioned, highly skilled, well-paid jobs bring a huge demand into the marketplace when it comes to property and jobs. If we were to look at the demographic of Cambridge, you can see clearly from this pie chart, over 50% of people that are in Cambridge work within these sectors that we've just mentioned. So science and research, medical and IT, they all factor, as I said, to over half what the demographic is for Cambridge. The rest clearly there also fall into academic finance as well. I think, if you were to look at a breakdown of people or the population, I think 1 in 5 people in Cambridge are postgraduates or undergraduates. So clearly those that are studying want to then remain in Cambridge. And I think that's a clear demand for accommodation that we've also noticed that's been really important. Cambridge has been a fantastic place for new property and new developments, clearly, as we're about to go on to soon. But that's also then driven the property market to a pretty healthy place. It's also interesting to know that property, not just what it's being built, but the quality of the accommodation is also really important. So, you know, to have these really well designed homes, very sustainable homes, that's all something that people, I think, are becoming more interested in as well, since kind of coming from the post-COVID situation. This graph here is really indicative of how the property market fares, and you can see, if we focus in on specifically the red and the yellow lines on the graph, that shows the Cambridge market and how it's moved over the coming years, alongside London being yellow, Cambridge being the red line. So I think that very, very clearly shows that, you know, the Cambridge market is reflecting and mirroring what's happening in London. London's our benchmark. Obviously, all of our overseas investors that we work with and people looking to the UK will always tend to resonate towards London. That's a place that's always had a historic buoyancy when it comes to buying and investing. So to know that Cambridge sits alongside London, I think should give a huge amount of comfort. In terms of values and what they look like, just to give a very sort of broad average, if you're looking to buy a new property, the average price sits around 425,000, and that's been taken over the last sort of 12 months between 2019 and 2020. Interestingly, we've just released our forecasts after completing first quarter of the year, and Nick Whitten from our head of research team has provided a document which certainly our team in Singapore and Kuala Lumpur will be able to share with you. But it's looking a really positive forecast, which we're delighted to see. So, you know, over the next 5 years, we're looking at pretty much an increase of sort of between 5 and 6% year on year. So there are brighter times ahead. I think we're all glad to hear that and see that. And I think, as I said, when people are able to return to the UK, they'll absolutely remember why it's important to still look to want to invest in property. And hopefully Cambridge will now sit on your top list. To cover off all of the points we've just mentioned, this slide hopefully gives a bit of a snapshot. Again, we've kind of moved through these at quite a pace. So clearly this webinar is going to be recorded, and you can go through these at your own time and leisure, and also approach us if you want further information. But just covering off a few of the points, education is always the main draw, I think. Clearly the university brings or ticks that box very much so. It's also one of great heritage and culture, but nicely balanced with that is the tech and the thriving IT and biotechnology and research labs that we've seen in the science park, and some of these great companies that have invested. So I think you've got a pretty nice balance of history and the heritage, as well as the new and the future and what's coming. The market, the property market, is extremely healthy and high in demand. You've got a great network of people that want to live and reside in Cambridge, so you will not struggle, I believe, to be able to buy a property, rent it out, or even take hold of it and enjoy everything there is if it becomes your home. So hopefully that all gives you a good idea of what we've seen as being a really important part of the city that we wanted to bring to you today. Next, I think it's the appropriate stage to move over to perhaps a development that showcases all of that. Ross Fleming from Hill is the International Sales Manager. We'll be able to run through now some of those points about Knights Park that we've been delighted to be part of. So I shall pass to you now, Ross.
Thank you so much, Emma. I really appreciate that. Very warm welcome, and just to say thank you, Team JLL, for supporting us throughout, and it's been a pleasure to work with you guys on this fantastic scheme. So Knights Park is actually situated in Eddington, a district of Cambridge, and actually historically, just to give you a bit of background, the University of Cambridge, this was actually part of their farmland before we started to build this fantastic development and scheme here. So it was actually a vision of the university to become this new university district, which Hill have helped realise and bring to fruition with our development at Knights Park. It was actually named Eddington as this new quarter, this new district, from a very famous University of Cambridge alumni, Sir Arthur Eddington, who was an astronomer, mathematician and physicist. Quite an accolade of achievements there, and actually lived in the local area itself, hence where the name has now come from. Next slide. So just to give you a bit of an overview to Eddington and Knights Park itself. So this covers over 50 hectares of open space, and as Emma quite rightly mentioned, there is this huge demand for having this availability for open space living right now. So it really does boast a huge amount of open space, which is fantastic to have. Also here is going to be 100,000 square meters of research and development facilities. And as you can see, some really quite stunning architectural buildings here, which includes the award-winning Storyfields Community Centre. And the actual Eddington estate is managed by the University of Cambridge Estate Management Company, so kept in the most pristine and beautiful condition throughout as well. And finally, the actual district itself has zero affordable housing throughout Eddington, as some of the housing here is actually for postgrads and staff of the university itself. So just to give you a bit of an idea as to where Eddington is situated in relation to the rest of Cambridge. So we're about 1.9 miles northwest of the city centre, which is around about a 12-minute bike ride right into the city along, as you can see, Huntington Road, and actually is part of a cycle path all the way in there. So very safe and lovely way to get into the city. And is also accessed by the University of Cambridge bus every 15 minutes. And as I mentioned, there are a number of cycle routes into the city. Here's just a beautiful picture of the market square within Eddington, which is right in the heart of the actual community, which has a number of independent shops and has a really bustling and thriving atmosphere, which is lovely to have, obviously, in any situation where you live. Here is also a health centre, children's play area, tennis courts, sports fields, a Sainsbury's supermarket with Argos, car club, shuttle bus service into the city centre. So Eddington and Knights Park has a huge amount to offer here for anyone who chooses to live here. Also on top of this, there is going to be a new hotel coming to Eddington, which is going to be the Hyatt Hotel, which will offer guests gym, rooftop bar and restaurant, which should be opening later this year around about September, which is fantastic to be able to have. And here we just have some wonderful pictures of the sort of bustling, thriving atmosphere and what Eddington has to offer. So obviously one of the great draws of Cambridge in itself is its education. And one thing that really needs to be noted right from the start is the fact that the University of Cambridge Primary School is just situated 5 minutes walk away from our development at Knights Park. And this is Ofsted rated as outstanding, and you're pretty much guaranteed entry for any residents who do live at Knights Park within this catchment area. But also on top of this, there are a number of fantastic and excellent schools across the whole of Cambridge, including obviously the University of Cambridge. So as you can see here, only 5 minutes drive away from the University of Cambridge, 8 minutes drive to Leys School, and 10 minutes drive to St Mary's School, Cambridge as well. So you have a huge offering of fantastic educational facilities throughout the whole of Cambridge, very close to your doorstep. So a bit about Knights Park in itself. So here we have a mixture of 1, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments and 3 and 4 and 5 bedroom houses. So prices starting from just under £370,000. And we have a range of completions from currently completed homes all the way running through to Q1, Q2 2023 as well. It's also really important to note that the sustainability at Knights Park is absolutely fantastic. So very, very modern homes, which are very sustainable, cost efficient, so saving on your bills. And it's also important to note that these come with EPC grade rating A. We actually have and can boast the largest rainwater reharvesting system in Europe. Triple glazed windows throughout, solar panels to all houses, smart meters, MVHR, heat recovery systems, electrical car charging points. So as you can see, probably the absolute highest level of sustainability. And with this, it's probably no surprise that we've actually won a number of sustainable development awards, national awards, because of this as well. Also, it's really important to note the high spec components. So as you can see from some of the pictures here, absolutely fantastic internal living. So integrated appliances, so Siemens and Bosch throughout, quartz worktops, underfloor heating and engineered wood flooring, and Hansgrohe bathroom wear as well. So just some absolutely beautiful homes to potentially live in as well, which we're really, really proud of. And finally, just to show you, we have our marketing suite here, which is absolutely fantastic and led by our wonderful team here, who are here 7 days a week, which is open from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. And the team are always happy to help with the JLL team, obviously in hand, for any questions, any viewings, and obviously to help you purchase a fantastic home at Knights Park. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you, Ross and Emma, for your sharing. Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Wong from JLL Malaysia. I'm very delighted to be here, and we are very excited to be part of the Knights Park development. I do receive a few questions from the audience. Ross, this question is for you. How is the sales so far for Knights Park, and how has COVID-19 affected the sales?
Thanks, Christine. Really good question. So we've approximately sold about 60% of the scheme so far to date, which we're really proud of. Obviously, COVID has had an impact. It's had an impact on everyone around the world globally. But one thing we have seen, which has definitely been in our favour, I suppose, is this, as Emma quite rightly mentioned, there's a shift in buyer profile. So not necessarily needing to be right next to where you work, as Emma quite rightly pointed out. You know, like myself today, working from home, as I do a number of days a week, it is more prevalent in sort of society today. So people wanting to have a bit more space, like I mentioned, about 50 hectares of open space just at Knights Park alone. Having that on your doorstep is fantastic. And not necessarily needing to be in the centre of London, for work purposes, yet having that access to London so close by, just over 50 minutes by train into King's Cross is wonderful. So you're getting the best of both worlds here, with obviously the green open space and the beauty that Cambridge has to offer, and obviously loads of things happening in Cambridge in itself, with obviously all the industry and global corporations based there, but having the access to London as well. So we've seen huge demand and interest at Knights Park, which has been reflected very well in our sales.
Glad to hear that Knights Park received well locally and internationally. Can you please repeat the starting price for the apartment and the house?
Sure. So as I mentioned, the apartments are coming in starting from just under £380,000, and our 3-bedroom houses are starting from just under £730,000.
Thanks, Ross. What is the buying process, and is there any financing available? Marilyn, can you take these questions?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Christine. The buying process is really simple, and we are here to guide you through. You will put down a non-refundable booking deposit of £5,000 upon exchange of contract, and a further deposit of 10% of the purchase price is payable within 21 days after exchange of contracts. The balance 90% of the purchase price will be payable upon completion. Financing is also available from the UK banks. We will put you in touch with a mortgage broker who will assist to source the mortgage option for you.
Okay, it's pretty simple and straightforward. Okay, who will be assisting in letting and management or resale if, let's say, the buyer want to sell their property in the future? Emma, can you help?
Of course, Christine, that was a really good question, and one that we've had a lot of our buyers ask before they decide to commit, is knowing what that process is later down the line. The short answer is JLL will absolutely assist, as with the buying process that Marilyn's mentioned, and we can do that on the letting side as well. We've got a really comprehensive and great client services team that operates from our London office, but also support our regional teams in Birmingham, Manchester, and obviously now including Cambridge. So you'll have a point of contact from JLL holding your hand right through from the beginning of placing your offer, buying the property, and then looking to rent it out. We've also got a great relationship with a local firm of letting agents called Bidwells, who are based in Cambridge. They've done a fantastic job for Hills so far at Knights Park with letting out a number of properties, and not just getting great rental incomes for landlords, but also getting them rented in sort of record time. So as we mentioned earlier, there's this great demand for property, so there will be no shortage of tenants ready to secure their homes, but we'll help you through that stage.
Thanks, Emma. Last but not least, can viewing be arranged? Emma, would you like to take this question?
Absolutely. Viewings can be arranged really easily, Christine. So anybody that contacts your team or Marilyn's team can definitely connect with us here in London. And we've also got our team of sales advisors that can travel up and accompany all viewings as required. As we mentioned, the transport connections are very easy. Anybody locally living in Cambridge already, we can take down to the marketing suite that Ross has mentioned is open 7 days a week. There's also the facility, I think, Ross, maybe you can just explain the virtual viewing, which has become pretty important, hasn't it, over the last few months?
Absolutely, Emma. So as we rightly mentioned, we're open 7 days a week, and the team are now becoming quite au fait with doing virtual viewings. Sadly, with obviously the travel restrictions in place, we're able to facilitate viewings virtually. So giving you the virtual experience of seeing the property has been really beneficial to some of our buyers throughout the process. So absolutely something we can offer.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Emma. I hope we answer your questions. You can contact us for further information with the contact details provided here, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you again. Back to you, Marilyn.
Thank you, Christine. So we have come to the end of the webinar. Thank you so much for joining us in today's session. There may be questions that we did not answer, but the salesperson will be in touch. So if you are interested to view the show homes in Cambridge or require further assistance, please feel free to reach out to the respective sales lead. Like what Ross mentioned, we are able to do virtual viewings too. So once again, thank you all for your participation, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next webinar. Thank you.